0537. Welcome to the impossible, where we empower others to face the impossible, inspire them to be impossible, and motivate them to do the impossible. And we're very excited to say that Matt and Austin are back in the studio together tonight after a quite a long time apart.
Yes.
However, thankfully we were, in large part to you, able to crank out more content than we ever have before in the given time span. And tonight is part 4 of the adaptation series that Austin's been working through. And I don't know about you guys, but I have absolutely loved listening to this mindset and this perspective. Obviously, adaptation is a huge part of everything we do. That's why Austin wanted to bring this series to you guys. That's why we were so excited to share these mindsets and these processes with you guys. Because, like, for me personally, since the day I got my leg cut off, everything has been an adaptation. That's what I've always, whenever you go into interviews and you always ask, like, what's your strengths? What's your weaknesses? I've always said my number one strength is adaptation, because my life is by default designed to adapt to everything around me, whether that's getting in and out of the shower, getting up and out of bed, running a marathon, squatting 500 pounds, whatever it is. I've got to adapt to the situation in ways that I wouldn't have previously imagined. And whether you've got a major physical disability like that or not, I think that holds true for all of us. And many times we're not even realizing the opportunities in our life that we have to adapt to situations. It's easy to fall into that limiting mindset and saying, this isn't built for me. This world isn't made for me. I can't thrive in this situation. This environment isn't conducive to my lifestyle and my practice. When really, every time we say that, it could be an opportunity to adapt to the situation, to figure out how we can thrive in those circumstances and ultimately come out stronger and better for it. So tonight we have part 4. We're very excited to share with you guys, and I'm going to let Austin open up the scene here.
Yeah, so hello everybody. It is great to be back and back in the studio. So the vistas were fantastic, but at the same time needed to be back here and back in the trenches.
It's hard to beat the Appalachian Mountains.
It's very difficult, yes. So today we wanted to kick off and continue on the why it is important to adapt and kind of who we are doing this for. So we've had a little bit about why is it important for ourselves to adapt and be the best and to do the impossible by being impossible. And then we talked about giving and why we do this for those who are around us. And today I wanted to tackle with Matt here the purpose of being the best you to ultimately give back to, in this case, who's given a lot for us, offered a lot for us, and been there for us. And that's the community. That would be you all. So to start off here, we discussed previously that finding and selecting the best individuals to then assemble into kind of an unstoppable force or team to have around you is paramount. And so when we go to serve the community as, let's say in our case, Team Impossible, what are we able to provide? What are we able to deliver? And at what, increasingly over time, how can we increase the benefit, increase the net value that is what we offer to the community? And so the first kind of big step is realizing what you and your team has and how much work you can put into it, realizing that working together, not only for you and your team, but ultimately getting into the community, that more will be accomplished. More and more will be accomplished, and a lot more change can happen. A lot more change for the good, and that's what we all want. So start off here. I have a nice little quote that we can kind of bounce off of. It's a bit strange, but it's from Marcus Aurelius, and I really it's a bit more bare bones, if you will. We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes, like the 2 rows of our teeth, upper and lower. To obstruct each other is unnatural. So it's a bit strange, but I feel it. The biggest word there would just be, it's natural for us to give back, and natural for us to do good for others, as if it's not only something we can do, but it's something that we should be doing. Mm-hmm. It's paramount for us to, again, as we are bettering ourselves, as we are becoming more and more impossible, it's best for us to go, okay, well, to work together like feet, hands, and eyes, like the 2 rows of teeth, upper and lower. I mean, that's taking it down to the core sense of, this is innate within us. This is something that we need to strive for regardless. And so bettering ourselves over time will ultimately allow that value to be much higher. So.
Yeah, it's an inherent obligation.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about potential. Your potential is your responsibility, and this is very much in alignment with the quote you just read. Why is your potential your responsibility? It has nothing to do with yourself, because yes, you owe it to yourself to become the highest form you can possibly be, but what does that ultimately do for you? It may drive you, it may motivate you to a certain point. It may be a good place to start. You have to have self-actualization before you can have any level of transcendence beyond that. But ultimately, the long distance goal at the end of the day is when you reach your highest potential, when you move beyond that and start attaining potential that you never dreamed possible for yourself. You become an inspiration, a motivation, and a driving force for others and those around you. And in doing so, you lift everyone around you, everyone watching you, you lift them up to a higher place. You show them a new potential. And once you see that potential in yourself, you see it in everyone around you. And that pulls them all to a higher level. So ultimately, treating your potential as a responsibility in such a manner is a community effort. Mm-hmm. It's striving to create a better world around you, better opportunities for those you're trying to serve, and ultimately it gives you a chance to give back to those who are battling the same struggles that you battled. Mm-hmm. I will be honest, though, I hear that quote, and immediately, because of who I am, my brain goes, you don't need 2 feet. But we're going to keep this episode serious.
I should have put an amendment in there.
Yeah.
Like feet or a foot.
Asterisk.
Yeah. Oh, my. When I like that you bring that up, because that was actually my next note, is that as we put in the positive force, we have a legit reason to see the impact that it can make on others. So, yeah, that's a very good point, is that leading by example really, really, really can bring out the best in others. Yeah. And that's something to really look forward to, that this can be a part of, is not only what, I don't know if the word what is, but how you're able to impact yourself and how you're able to impact as a team can ultimately trying to say? That putting yourself in that best position is really one of the best things that you can do to show others that it is possible to be a positive force within the community. Because a lot of times they're going to be scared. A lot of times they're going to they're just not going to know how to take that first step forward. And if in our case here, I mean, this is certainly one of this is a journey of which I hope to, and we hope to offer to individuals to show them, what is possible. Leading, and again, leading by example is absolutely the best thing to take from that. And it's also a bit, reflective as well, because a lot of the times we may think that we're doing something, fantastic for the community, but it's not, it may not be tailored correctly, or it may not be, it just may not be to the best of your ability. And I think for us, and just Team Impossible in general, I think we are absolutely killing it out there to try and offer up whatever we can, however we can, to really to put ourselves in the position of showing this community what doing the impossible is and how possible that is.
Yeah, it's why you chase your potential. So you don't necessarily chase, I'm going to go out and change the world, like in and of itself. It has to start internally. That's why you chase your own highest potential. And in doing so, the ripple effect that causes is what will have the impact on the world around you. Mm-hmm. Now, certainly, you can have a dream and a vision, and you should have that vision for how your work will impact the world. You absolutely need to have that. But if that's your sole driving force, and you have no internal vision, no internal growth, no internal plan desired, it's going to create a much harder path for you, because ultimately you see the world as a reflection of who you are. Mm-hmm. Your culmination of beliefs, desires, habits, paths, processes, everything you do, everything you are ultimately becomes how you see the world. And so if you have not worked into building yourself up into someone who doesn't see limitations, who strives for your own potential, who believes that you can build yourself into someone who can do things that should not be capable to be done given your circumstances, if you do all of that, all of a sudden you see a world full of opportunity, full of impossible attainments in front of you, things that you would have never seen before, paths you may never have recognized or even would have allowed yourself to go down. So when you do the work to build yourself up into that highest potential, all of a sudden you see the highest potential in the world reflected everywhere around you.
Absolutely. And there's one aspect of this, and the why serving the community is important, that I wonder if it would be a somewhat of a hot topic in the sense that for the potential of the work that you put into giving to the community, I believe to the fullest potential and the fullest, most positive impact that can be made would be from acts that do not expect anything in return. In that this work is what all of us should strive to I don't want to say achieve, but like we should strive to achieve what is best for the community without without expecting anything, in return. And I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the exact reason why, and we say this so much, and I'm going to say it again, our main message is be impossible, not necessarily do the impossible. Yes, having a consistent, concerted effort at being impossible over a long enough time horizon will allow you to do the impossible in many ways, and probably in ways you never would have dreamed of. But we don't start with the goal of do the impossible. We start with the goal and have our exclusive goal being impossible. The reason is you can't have exclusive control over that outcome. And even if you could, the outcome is not what changes who you are. It's not what reveals your inner spirit, your inner self to yourself. It's not what teaches you and shows you your potential. What does that is those moments of being at mile 18 of a marathon when your body wanted to shut down at mile 6. Mm-hmm. It's that moment of being halfway up on a 550-pound deadlift and feeling your grip start to slip and not knowing if you're going to complete the lift or not. It's that moment of having recorded thousands and thousands of hours of content and constantly questioning if you're putting out the right message, if you need to change things, if having that internal questioning or doubt and being able to move beyond that. It's these moments where in an instant, everything should end, everything should stop, and you have an active conscious choice of will I stop or will I fight and continue until I find a higher level of potential. And in those moments, you may not always achieve the desired outcome you had initially anticipated. And that's okay, because all that matters is if you have the courage and the bravery and the dreams and the desire to ask that question, what if? And you continue on just a little bit longer, a little bit further, and you develop an unruly belief in your own potential, your own capacity to succeed and to win. You will go so much farther than you would have ever allowed yourself to believe that you could. So when you make your mission to be impossible, to build the version of yourself that can overcome anything you face, you ultimately fall down to relying on a certain set of systems, a certain set of mindsets, ideals, beliefs about yourself and about the world around you. And that becomes the core processing function of who you are. And that can be applied to any situation to allow you to succeed in any situation. Not necessarily that you get that desired outcome, but that you approach it with the right mindset and the right internal state and set of beliefs that will allow you to find a success higher than you otherwise would have been able to.
Oh, absolutely. And that, and with that comes, what is your, to kind of break that down, like what is your intent? What is your, again, like you said, your approach? Because that's something that you build in what we've talked about previously is your like immediate daily structured goals, something that you're building on the daily to be able to put yourself in those positions of running for the marathon and running a marathon or working somewhere within the community itself. You're building upon those immediate goals, putting together a form of intent through those daily actions, through those short-term goals, and ultimately putting yourself in the best position of finding your long-term goals to be, because they're going to evolve over time, but ultimately for the long-term goals to put yourself in the position that is just the best you. And it starts with intent on a daily basis, and that intent on the daily basis is also what's ultimately going to give you that sense of belief,
mm-hmm.
of seeing on the daily what have I become? What am I going to become? Where will I go? And how many lives can I affect in a positive manner while I do so?
Yeah. And your intention is something you have a lot of active control over too. Mm-hmm. And it's something you need to assert a lot of active control over, because your intention is your direction. Without direction, we can put in all the work in the world and we won't go anywhere. You have to know where you're headed. Everybody needs to have a mission and a vision statement for their own life, their own passion, their own purpose. We've got one here at Impossible Performance that we read at the beginning and end of every podcast. Our mission statement is at the beginning. Our vision statement is at the end. The difference between the two, the mission is what am I executing in the world right now on a day-to-day basis? And the vision is, if that mission is executed on a day-to-day basis, what is the change I will see in the world in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? What is the long-term outcome of what this daily mission will lead to? That's how we've structured ours, and everybody needs to build one of those for their own life. It doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be elaborate, and it's something that can change over time. But you need that so that you have the appropriate direction. That all starts with setting your intention. Why are we doing this? That's what we're discussing tonight. Why are you going out to chase your own potential? Why are you going out to build as strong of a mind, a body, a spirit, whatever it is you're chasing, as you possibly can? You have to know that to provide the drive, the motivation, the inspiration, and ultimately, most importantly, in those moments, as we discussed, where you first touch the impossible, in those moments where in an instant everything should end, but you somehow find it within you, you find a higher level of humanity to push you forward. You have to have something that is more powerful than anything else in your life to push you through that instant and into the impossible.
You have given aid, and they've received it. And yet, like a fool, you keep holding out for more. Marcus Aurelius. Like a fool, you keep holding out for more. I have some personal experience with parts of humanity that only expect more in return than what they've given to themselves, ultimately, to themselves, but to their close group or team, and then to the community. And I must say my experiences in those have somewhat been the driving force for me personally. I mean, deeply a part of the reason why coming up through university, I thought I was giving back to the community in terms of chasing my passion and really thinking that I could go somewhere with music. Otherwise, I wouldn't have studied it, spent all that money. And I thought that was my ticket to giving, but I found a lot of desire in having more reciprocated. And then once I graduated, and went off and went down a much darker path, a very kind of a floating in limbo kind of path. That drive to serve was absolutely lost, pretty much or completely lost. I mean, I worked full time plus more just to pay the bills, working at an AutoZone, and so I again in that case I applied a certain amount of me that I thought was worthy of being in the face of the community to help. And personally, like in my personal life, I was not in the mind. I didn't have the right mindset. I was not in the right position, and I was not doing not that I wasn't doing what was best for me. I was not giving myself the opportunity to work on being the best me for the community. Again, like I said, it was a very dark path that I was on. And so I can say from experience. Oh, sorry. So then timeline wise, we get to, the past few years where you've given me the opportunity to, in some of my, like the darkest moments of my life in these past 2.5 to 3 years now, I have seen at times what service in its fullest, most positive potential. I've seen that through you and through what we have only begun to do, or began to do. Begun? What we have only begun in doing with Team Impossible. And that has been the most freeing, the most activating of something deep inside me that just sends me to the drawing boards, literally, and figuratively. but that, seeing that firsthand for the first time, I'm seeing service to the community that just blows my mind of it being possible. That being impossible is a thing. That putting yourself through a lot of suffering, but ultimately forming the best you through discipline can be such a positive force. Such a positive force for good. And with my experiences, it's been an incredible journey of evolution of just at least myself coming through all of this. And I couldn't say it enough. There are the words for it, but there's not enough of them to say over and over and over again to really properly represent how much this opportunity means to me to really see what I can give to not only myself, because that's not, that's that's all fine and dandy now. It's what I can give back to those of us here at Team Impossible, especially you, Paul, JD, closest friends. Team Impossible, but ultimately, what I've been able to see what being impossible truly means. It's incredible. So I'm very thankful of what we can do here and what we're going to do.
Yeah. Can you read that quote again?
Absolutely.
I just need to hear it again.
You have given aid, and they have received it. And yet, like a fool, you keep holding out for more.
Yeah. I really like this on two different levels. There's kind of the obvious level of self and community and hitting on the themes of selflessness and service and giving without expecting anything in return. And in fact, I think that's a requirement, because just like we talked about before, you have to be able to detach yourself from the outcome, and you have to become obsessed with the systems that will inevitably get you that outcome. You can't just work and work and work for an outcome and keep grasping at straws and keep, changing directions and trying to figure out a way to get to this out. You have to find a set of systems. You have to build yourself into the person that will inevitably be where you want to be. Mm-hmm. When that becomes your sole purpose, your sole focus, your sole obsession, then your success becomes inevitable. And your mission and vision, the things you're doing in the world around you, they become inevitable. So, and I think you're an absolutely perfect example of that. You bring up your time in music school and how you had passion, you had something you loved, you had something you wanted to chase, but look at the internal state of who you were then contrasted with who you are now.
Young and naive.
Yeah. And not only that, but just like now you have direction, you have purpose, you have a mission, you have a vision for your life. And more than that, you've built yourself into somebody who you can conquer and overcome extreme challenge. You know that you can do impossible things in your own life. You know that you can set an unruly belief for where you can end up and actually work to achieve it and attain it. Mm-hmm. If you took the exact mindset and internal state of who you are now and put that in the version of yourself from 2013, 2014, I mean, you could have done anything you wanted.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point, right. So now you've done the work, you've built up this internal state, and now you're able to chase those things in life with passion and purpose and desire and dreaming and everything that can be a positive, forward, motivating force. But you don't have that. And in fact, I would say you can't build that purely for the betterment of yourself.
Right.
It's ultimately, you will never feel so gratified as the moment you look somebody in the eyes who battled through the darkest times you've ever battled through. And you see something in their eyes, knowing that you changed their life. You had a positive impact. They will have less suffering because of you. There's never anything you will experience better. So when we go out and have our core purpose to be to chase those moments of finding that highest potential in ourselves, so that it can ultimately serve as an example, as motivation, as inspiration, as whatever it needs to be for those around us, and especially those who are battling through some of the darkest times we've battled through. That's the greatest gift you'll ever give someone, and in giving it is the greatest gift you'll ever receive. So don't be looking for the compensation or the recompense. It's already inherently built into it. It's built into the work. Again, it's another reason why this process is everything, and the outcome becomes so much less in comparison. The process of doing that work, the process of that giving, the process of building those up around you, that alone gives you a higher reward than anything that could ever be physically given back to you. The other thing I love about this quote, and I wonder if this was maybe like a second layer of meaning that Marcus Aurelius had intended for this thought. When I hear this, my brain immediately thinks, the circumstances will never be perfect. I think about how we're constantly waiting for the right time, the right place, the right set of circumstances, the right opportunity to go out and execute our dreams or to chase our potential. Because you hear it all the time, and it's so easy. We all do it. I have to fight it within myself every single day, but it's so easy to say, well, I can't do this because of this. I can't go out and run that marathon. I can't go out and compete in that competition because I'm not strong enough. I can't build a business. I can't start a podcast. I can't start a media channel. I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to record. I don't know how to talk. Whatever it can be. We always have the certain set of reasons as to why the circumstances are not perfect for us to execute on our dream and our vision in life. And what Marcus Aurelius says here is that you keep waiting for those circumstances to be perfect, and they're never going to be. You're never going to have a perfect situation. You're never even going to have a favorable situation. So build yourself up into the person who can adapt to the situation. Build yourself into the person who succeeds and triumphs despite the challenge. And in fact, one step beyond that, build yourself into a person who craves the unfavorable circumstances, who knows that the greater the challenge you're facing, the greater the opportunity for potential you will find within it. And when you can flip your mindset around, when you can reprogram your brain to see challenge and get excited about it because you know it will give you an opportunity to find an even deeper level of spirit and meaning and purpose within yourself, when you get yourself to that state, all of a sudden, again, a world of opportunity opens before you. You no longer see the things you can't do. You only see the things you can achieve, and you get excited about how you're going to achieve them despite the circumstances, despite the challenges. So don't wait for the circumstances to be perfect. Don't wait to get more in life before you start. Start now. Start now. Execute at your highest level. Find your highest potential. Move one step beyond it, and everything will be given back to you.
I really like that derivation.
That's like immediately where my brain went when I heard that. Yeah. And I think it's because I've just, with this weird sickness or whatever it is I've been battling for so long now, it feels kind of like I've been living in this world a little bit. It's like day to day, week to week, month to month, my health is constantly changing. And I've had to kind of foster a mindset of I'm just going to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Like the challenges are just irrelevant.
And you can see it starts to creep up on you, that sense of, if I stop, how far back am I going to be put?
Mm-hmm.
And we only know that for ourselves. We can have a guess for others, but for ourselves, we know how far back we would be set if we just all of a sudden, and it's not like taking a break. Like if you just, some situations, if you stop, it's just all that work that you've been putting into has a lot of kinetic energy to it. It has a lot of momentum, and you can't let off the throttle. I personally know, just in this past couple of years, I've realized I have found the best, most productive, most conductive Austin, but I also know that if I didn't have Team Impossible, if I didn't have Impossible Performance, I know how far back I would be, and that would be one heck of a lot further back than where I was 4 or 5 years ago. It would be horrible. And one little thing I wanted to note from your first point was, it's also just nice. I don't know why it kept coming up of just, it's nice having someone you can rely on. It's nice having the individual that, not only the individual of yourself, but the individuals who are immediately around you, your team, to have people that you can rely on, so that when all of you are putting so much effort and time into being the best individuals, but ultimately the best team to serve the community, it's really nice to have those impossible minds that you can rely on, that you can rely upon. And I want to specify on the impossible individuals around you. I really do, for me, personally, and I would assume you feel the same. I'd love to hear if you do, in that for our team, they are of the impossible mind. That's why they are our closest friends. That is why we come to know and love them, and it's one of the greatest things that, at least for me, it's one of the greatest things that I look forward to every day is, seeing stuff come up on the bro chat, or sending messages back and forth, spurting, sometimes they're just videos and photos of us working out, and just absolutely showering each other with compliments and just positive feedback. But ultimately knowing that we have such a tight group of impossible minds, it really, for me, shines upon the fact that having that sense of having that reliable nature, knowing that if I falter for a minute, a moment, or a day, I have individuals that I can rely upon with pretty much anything. It's incredible that I have an impossible team with me, around me, however you want to envision it. I think that's your envision of a geographical sense is going to be on a personal basis, but it's just incredible to have such a powerful, motivated, driven, but ultimately disciplined group of individuals around you who, and none of us are perfect, but it carrying the impossible mind one kind of what would you say that? Not benefit, but one consequence of being within such a group is that you have that worry that it's one of many worrisome emotions that you can set off to the side, is that I can rely on these individuals. I can rely on these guys. So I don't have to worry about losing a step here or two there, losing a step or two here and there.
Yeah.
That is an incredible feeling to me.
Yeah. Just like, we talked about at the beginning, the world around you is going to be a reflection of your internal state and who you are. Like, the world is as you see it, essentially. You can also construct an environment where you will ultimately end up becoming a reflection of that environment. Monsters Bent Barbell is a phenomenal example. Like, when I first started training there, I was still not in a very good spot mentally, emotionally, spiritually, honestly, even physically. I was far better than I had been at some points in the past, but being at that place was really a catalyst of opening me up to a whole new world of potential. I thought I was pretty strong with my 405-pound deadlift. Until I go to Monsters and train with Drake my very first day there, and he's warming up on 600-700.
Yeah.
And just being in an environment like that, you're automatically called up to a higher level. And then now you talk about like what we've built with Team Impossible. There's a lot of people around me who call me up to a higher level every single day. You feel this duty, this responsibility, not just to not let those people down, but to hold that ideal of what you've all built together, what they've helped you see in the world, and what your message is to them. You have to live up to that. And I see it almost every weekend when I go to train or to squat, especially when I'm training with Wade, like Wade, Paul, Tab, Matt, Clayton, all these guys. There's days I go into squats and not the best mindset, but you see somebody, everybody in there's an example. Somebody I'll bring up just because we've not talked about him a lot on here is Tab. Tab will just fight and just brutally, like gruesomely work through every single rep. And he has so much desire, so much passion for this sport and his own internal strength that he will just gruelingly fight for every single rep he completes. And like when you see that, you can't help but be more fired up for your own work and your own potential.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you see guys like Paul, who just doesn't even make physiological sense how strong he is and how quickly he progresses. And then you've got Clayton, who's under 600-700 pounds on a weekly basis at 40 plus years old after having torn both quads totally off of his knees. And that environment, being in that, you can't limit yourself in that environment. Like that environment, that world that's been built there will not allow for that. And then I have guys like Wade, who like Wade just has this special way of like, like you give a message, you think you're pretty good at giving the message, you think you're pretty good at holding yourself to it. And then somebody comes along and they just like, Wade makes me feel how I think I make other people feel sometimes. A little bit uncomfortable in their aspirations for me. He calls numbers for me that I'm like, are you sure about that, buddy? Like, are you really sure that's a good idea? But it's just like this past weekend. He called me up to that 507 for a double when I was supposed to do 485 for a double. Literally over 20 pounds over what I was supposed to do, which when you get up to those percentages, like 97-98% of your one rep max, 20 pounds is a big difference.
Yes.
And then I smoked the 507. I could have done more than that. He saw a potential in me that I didn't even see in myself. And when you construct that group of individuals around you, that environment, that world around you, through the work that you're constantly putting in on yourself, then that environment is going to hold you to a higher standard sometimes than even you will hold to yourself. So when you can build up both of those states, the internal state that is a reflection of the world around you, and then the external environment that ultimately has impact and reflection on who you are internally, it's just going to be a massive catalyst for building that growth within yourself that will take you to goals, places, victories that you never even imagined. I never imagined a 507 for 2 last weekend. And now, because of that, I'm able to go into this meet with the possibility, the dream, the aspiration in my brain that I may pull a lifetime PR deadlift, which is something I'd never even considered for myself prior.
Yeah.
So it's imperative to have both.
And that sense of that room in Monsters, not just Saturday mornings, but having that, use that as an example, having that group together. You have all of these microcosms happening within the individuals. And they put that up on display in no matter what they're going through in a positive sense for that session with everybody. And then you have the microcosm of individuals within this room all coming together for the same thing, all having a positive force for doing good and for making an impact, a positive impact for the others within the room. You wonder how macroscopic you could make that, how awesome that would be, how incredible it would be to put that on display for more.
Yeah.
For so many individuals, how macroscopic could we get with that? Because that is an environment that has made such an impact on us. For me personally, I think about all the time of like, if we could just have, some 10,000 square foot squat room, and just have, hundreds of people in there doing the same thing, feeling the same thing, and not just any old energy, but the energy that is flowing through that room at Monsters. That energy in particular, it is like, just as you described there, it is so positive, so you can rely on the individuals that are in there. You're going to be pushed by them. That you could push them. And that is, in its sense, in its most natural sense, why doing good, not only for yourself, but for others, is such an opportunity, but such a thrill. Why it's just that for us shows why we do what we do is it's incredible. So I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it. So, but yeah, so we all have roles to play for our communities. We are here to serve others. So find a way or ways to give back to the community, or simply to give. It may be a situation to where you really want to go out there and just be a positive force for good, and that's what we're trying to get across here. It's an opportunity that everybody has It's a chance for you to, it may not seem like it in the moment or even the next day or the next week or the next month, but what you are doing is your part in making this world a better place. Because there's so much, it's said all over the place, and it unfortunately it is true. There's a lot of negativity in the world right now. There are a lot of people at other people's throats, and what can you do in these moments? Doesn't have to be a Hail Mary. It's little piece by piece is how we get the ball rolling in a more positive direction. So, in order to incentivize others that helping the community is a necessity, you must lead by example.
100%. That's what it comes down to. That is the why. We talked about at the beginning, we wanted to break down why do we chase this? Why do we have to adapt to these circumstances? Why do we have to keep finding that higher potential, that higher meaning within us? And you can keep breaking it down more and more and more and more. You know, you can talk about your own personal level, the community level, the broader level. You can keep breaking it down to all these levels. But at the end of the day, why we do this is it moves all of humanity forward. And you don't have to go out and build some business. You don't have to go out and build a brand. You don't have to it doesn't have to look any certain way. That world, that moving humanity forward can be incredibly small in its size, but infinite in its impact. So find the world you want to serve. Find that group of individuals who have battled through the exact same circumstances that you consider to be the darkest times in your life, where you needed a positive, motivating light the most, and serve them. Make their lives better. Make their suffering less. Show them a path forward. Show them the strength that they've accumulated and built and fostered because of the challenges they've faced. And give them the gift of their own potential. And when you do that, those individuals will go out and touch other lives in the exact same way. And it moves humanity forward. So we want to thank you guys for listening. We want to thank you for being a part of this episode and this series. We want to thank you for being our community, for being our group of people, our environment, our world that helps hold us to a higher standard and helps us continue to spread this message, this mindset, this mission, and this vision as far as we possibly can. Because at Impossible Performance, we are striving to build a global culture of strength, fostering a spirit of growth in constant pursuit of the impossible. Thank you guys for listening. We're glad to be back, to be together again in the studio, and we've got a race to run.
Yes, we do.
So as always,
Yes, we do.
Be impossible.